You are listening to an exclusive on PodHub Network. Your city, your podcast.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Back to the Burgh, presented by the PodHub Network. My guest today is from Mount Lebanon, PA, and has worked her way up the ranks to become the Vice President of Digital for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Please welcome my guest, Andi Perelman. Andi, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. I didn't even know who the Vice President of Digital or who does all this stuff for the Penguins until I saw you announce that you got the job on Twitter. And I don't know why it came up, but I was like, oh, wow, that's awesome. Like, somebody from Pittsburgh is now in a high-ranking position for the Pittsburgh Penguins. How much of a special feeling is that?
Yeah, it's been awesome. So I started working for the Penguins about 7 years ago, and just been working my way up. And there's never been a VP of digital at the Penguins, so being able to kind of work into that role and do it for a team that I grew up watching, and it's kind of my my hometown team. It's a lot of fun. It's something I really enjoy, and then I think there's a lot that my team can bring to the table, and we've kind of built our department for the last 7 years to really be really strong and really good at what we do. So I'm excited about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we get into that, I want to get into your roots. Tell me about growing up in Mount Lebanon, because, I mean, that's in Allegheny County, right?
Yeah.
I'm a Beaver
Yeah.
County guy, so, I don't know anything about Allegheny other than Pittsburgh. So
Yeah.
tell me what it's like growing up there.
That's suburbia. People call Mount Lebanon the bubble. So,
Yeah.
it's like once you're in there, it's like hard to kind of get out. It's always with you. So, it's good childhood. Mount Lebanon's a great place. Good schools, lots of friends that I have still to this day are some of my high school friends. And obviously being close to Pittsburgh, really great for being a fan of the sports teams, going to sporting events growing up. And my parents are still in Mount Lebanon, so it's still like near and dear to my heart. So yeah, I love it there.
Yeah. So growing up, did you ever think this would happen? Like having a job working in Pittsburgh and for a team in Pittsburgh, an organization?
No. I didn't think that, I never really thought about working in sports, and I didn't really know what jobs were available. And obviously, really, when I was growing up, social media didn't even exist.
Yeah.
So, you look at sports teams and, the Penguins, everyone on the team is male. So, it's not something that you think about as a little girl growing up watching hockey, like, oh, I could, be a part of this, this thing. I don't play hockey, I'm not a man.
Yeah.
So yeah, it wasn't on the radar for me growing up, but once I graduated from grad school, and I had my master's degree in sports industry management, I was looking all over the place, and the Penguins were kind of just, the dream job, the dream team. I guess there's a lot of dream jobs, but it was kind of the perfect situation for me, where they had a job that was in digital and marketing, which was kind of exactly what I was looking for, but it was also a team that I knew about and really wanted to be around.
Yeah, absolutely. So now I'm just going to jump straight to your college career.
Sure.
Because, I lost it. But no, I noticed that you went to the University of Maryland.
Mm-hmm.
And you went there for, if I can pull it up, you graduated with a Bachelor of Arts in Government and Politics. So how do you go from government and politics to digital media?
Yeah. So like most people probably in college, I was not 100% sure what I wanted to do when I went in there. And I found the government and politics classes really interesting. But I think the things that now looking back that I really enjoyed about it was the theory and the marketing aspects of it. So how do you market a candidate, and what makes somebody vote a certain way? And, why do people kind of think a certain way, and kind of the psychology of government and politics.
Yes.
And I think that feels a lot more like what I do on the social side. I know a lot of people who study government politics in college and ended up going into social media. And I'd love to see some research on that, because it feels like there's a lot of parallels, but it's hard to describe why. But yeah, I think political theory is interesting in that it's kind of in the middle of science and art.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's kind of where social is too, is like in this like half left brain, half right brain kind of place where you can be creative and you can kind of get involved in the like fun, let's try something new out and market in this way that maybe makes some sense, but we don't know if it's going to work, and try things out. And then you're also on the business side and pulling analytics and looking at all of the numbers and trying to really make sense of that stuff too. So, yeah, I'm not totally sure. Maybe I just grew it. Maybe I'm looking into it too much and I think it makes sense and it doesn't actually make sense.
Well, no, because I like being a communications major, and you brought up the psychology of it. That's something I think a lot of people don't think about when they think about the two subjects of politics and communications. Is it's right there with psychology, and that's something that over the years, and like obviously through my college career, it was like, wow, like the psychology of these things is really interesting on how you can just like how people think about certain things. And that's something that over time, just even myself became enamored with. I was like, wow, like we can basically brainwash people if we wanted to.
Oh yeah. Especially through digital, right? Like
exactly.
It's crazy. And getting crazier by the minute, it feels like. So
but that's why I was so excited to do this interview, because I felt like this is an episode where I could like geek out with somebody who gets what I like we had the same mindset, I feel like, with the digital and like we just discussed, and this is just really something that I was looking forward to. So now let's look forward. You did a semester. It says semester at sea at University of Virginia.
Yeah. So the semester at sea program at the time was through University of Virginia. It's kind of moved around to different schools,
Gotcha.
but that's when I did it. And I wanted to do a semester abroad, and I was very sure of that, but I didn't know where I wanted to go. And I wasn't studying language in college. I had no reason to really go to a specific spot. And I started looking at a bunch of programs, and I figured, well, why choose one place when I can choose a ton of different places? And I applied to semester at sea, and we literally circumnavigated the globe in one semester, doing classes on board of the ship, and then getting off and being able to kind of explore and do whatever I wanted, sometimes for class, but most of the time just for fun, hanging out with friends and seeing things I wanted to see. It was awesome. I mean, traveling right now, it's like everyone wishes they could travel right now.
Exactly,
and thinking about that trip specifically, it was like going to so many places that I never thought that I would go to. And we actually didn't go to Europe. So we started in the Bahamas, and we went to South America, and then around the bottom of Africa and up through Asia, and then back, and we docked in San Diego. So it was really cool. And now I can say, I've been to Mauritius, which is a place I never thought that I would go to. And I've been to Ghana and Taiwan and all these places that, like, I don't know if my life path would have ever kind of taken me there. So awesome experience.
Yeah, and it says in the subheading, One World Football. Is that where the sports started to come into your mind, of like sports, just media or digital? Or if not, you can correct me.
Yeah. I don't think it was then from a work perspective. I think I've always just been interested in sports. I played sports growing up, and soccer specifically, and the One World Football program was involved with my voyage. So they were giving out indestructible soccer balls to kids around the world, and it was kind of our job to go and deliver them and kind of explain how they kind of reinflate and they can't break.
Awesome.
And it was an awesome program to be involved in. And I think for me, it's always been clear that sports bring people together, and it doesn't matter who you are or where you're from or really anything. Like sports are kind of universal language in a lot of ways. And like I was playing soccer with kids in Brazil that like could speak Portuguese, and I couldn't say anything to them and I couldn't understand what they were saying, but we were playing soccer together.
Yeah.
And I think that program kind of showed me that again. And that's something I've seen throughout my entire life. And I think one of the things and one of the reasons why working in sports is so much fun, it's just, you know, people ask me a lot, like, what's your target for your Facebook post or your Instagram? It's like, so many people are Penguins fans and they're all so different.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's not always, you know, the 25 to 34-year-old male. It's, you know, a mom who's taking her kid to hockey practice and starts, you know, kind of getting more excited about the game. And it's a little kid who's maybe his dad brought him into it, or so many things can kind of, I don't know. It just, it's always been a passion of mine, I guess, but I didn't see it, I think, then as a career opportunity.
Yeah, that's awesome. So then you go to Georgetown to get your master's, and that's where I think the sports really comes in, because you got the professional studies, sports industry management. Congratulations.
Feels like a million years ago.
Yeah, and then from there you go to public relations with Octagon. I don't think I've ever heard of them. If you want to give some insight.
Yeah, so I interned there while I was in Georgetown.
Okay.
And it's a sports agency. So a lot of players, you know, probably have agents that are at Octagon. And I was kind of working on the PR side for athletes and personalities, was what it was called at the time. And just helping out with some of the internal communications, writing some, you know, marketing bios for athletes. I remember I was doing Gabe Landeskog, like right when he was drafted, and like
Nice.
Brian Nugent Hopkins was Octagon. I don't know if they even still are with Octagon, but they were then. It was just, it was kind of my first sports agency experience through school. And Georgetown has a pretty awesome program where they connect a lot of internship experiences in the area to the school. And I was working for a woman named Melissa Romano, who went through the program a couple years before I did. She's still there. And it was just great to kind of learn from somebody who had been through what I was going through in school, but then also really knew the ins and outs of the sports business and had been in there for a while.
Awesome. And then from there, you go to one of my favorite Pittsburgh sports teams that doesn't exist anymore, the Pittsburgh Power.
One of your favorite Pittsburgh sports teams was the Pittsburgh. I need to hear more about that.
Oh yeah. Listen, so we went.
That seems like a rare sighting, you know?
It is. So I was in high school, and our football team, we did a trip. Like, we went to the game or wherever, and just the energy of the arena and like the high scoring, I was like, this is it. And like years prior, I think PlayStation 2, they came out with a game. It was like arena football. I was like, oh wow, now I get to actually go to an arena football game, see what it's all about. And like,
nice.
just the connection from the video game to actually being there and it being Pittsburgh. I was so into it. I used to tell my dad every weekend, I was like, we got to go to a game. The tickets are what, like $20? Let's just go.
That is one of the best parts. It was very affordable. Yeah, easy to get into the arena. And I definitely agree about like the atmosphere, like pretty cool that you're so close to the football, right? It's so normal with the Steelers to feel like you're kind of far away from the field and the players are so accessible in arena football. Like everyone would come down for an autograph session right after the game, like every game.
Yeah.
It's just so different.
It was literally like you put together the Pittsburgh Pirates and the Steelers like experience. It was like they just clashed, and that
in the Penguins building, right?
Yeah, in the Penguins building. Yeah.
Big smushed up sports, yeah.
Exactly, because you have the aspect of the autographs, like you said, and the Pirates always signed autographs before games. Then you have the football, and then just throw in the console arena at the time, and there you go. You got it. You got all three. So what was that experience like? Was it an enjoyable experience? Was it – because, I mean, obviously it's a new franchise, so you were kind of starting from scratch.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was interesting for me. You know, it's kind of pretty early out of school, and every team works differently, and I
Mhm.
think I was kind of trying to get my footing and kind of get an idea of what it was going to be like working for a team because I know I mentioned like I was working at Octagon. I also worked for a sports nonprofit while I was in grad school. I worked for a social media team for a large B2B company. Um, but I never worked for a team. And so
Yeah.
this was my first team experience, and I was trying to kind of figure out where I fit. And when it comes to arena football, when it comes to any kind of minor league sports, um, you're doing a lot of things
Yeah.
and you're not specialized. Everyone's doing a little bit of everything. And um, it was a good learning experience, right? Because it was like, okay, I'm doing social, but I'm doing marketing, but I'm also doing events, and I'm going to have like a bunch of game night interns and a bunch of people that are kind of reporting to me and trying to figure out how this works, you know, right out of school. And
Yeah.
so it was good experience for learning kind of what I liked, what I didn't like, um, how to work with other people. You know, it's still early, right, in my career,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
how to kind of get along and communicate effectively. Um, and so I think that experience probably taught me a lot about, um, you know, what I needed from a workplace, and yeah, just kind of prepared me for my next role at an ad agency, and then shortly after at the Penguins.
Yeah, I gotta say that one I'm extremely jealous of, even if a lot of people think, oh, it's the power. I'm jealous because that's awesome.
Yeah.
So then you you became a hockey writer for Penn's Nation. Did you pick that up as kind of just like a hobby, or was that
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, it's just on the side. I was writing for Bleacher Report, and then
Awesome.
Penn's Nation was doing some cool stuff I thought with the Penguins, and I wanted to kind of keep doing hockey and keep kind of my foot in the door and have kind of a resume of different things when it came to sports. So got involved with them. They were kind enough to reach out to me actually and say like, hey, do you want to write for us? And um, I was like, yeah, sure, because I was writing my own hockey blog at the time. Much better to be with other people who know what they're doing than
Yeah.
just kind of running your own stuff. And so it was a lot of fun. I worked with those guys for a while, and until it was, you know, time to come to the Penguins, and then I was like, okay, like
Yeah.
I have achieved what I needed to achieve. I wish you guys well, and you know, and then it kind of just, you know, like I stopped blogging because I was basically tweeting from the Penguins at that
Yeah.
point. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. I think I got on like one or two podcasts with them too, and they're so good at what they did. So it was fun to be a part of.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, what was that grind like? Because like, I blog off and on, but like nothing serious, and I assume like you were like legit like following the Penguins and doing all that stuff. What was that like? What was the grind like? Did you have any fun experiences? 'Cause I assume you either went to games or watched games. Did you meet anybody? Like, what was the coolest thing that came out of that, do you think?
Yeah, so I wouldn't say it was a grind just because of like how involved I was. You know, like I think part of what made it so great was it wasn't just me on my own. So,
Okay.
you know, I had a blog called Five for Boarding that I was running on my own. And it was like I felt kind of like there was pressure to like post a certain like at a certain pace. And then when I started doing stuff with Pens Nation, it was kind of like, well, somebody's going to write about a game recap and somebody else is going to write about, you know, post-game interviews. And my kind of sweet spot was kind of the like fluffy league-wide stuff. So I wrote, you know, there were things that we split up. Like I think there was a series at one point that was looking ahead at the next season and every team and kind of what to expect. But a lot of the time it was like the fun stuff that you would find on Reddit, right? Like it was
Yeah.
just like what's going on with each team. Like, okay, like teams came out with new jerseys and how are people reacting to those? And, you know, maybe this player tweeted back at a fan and it was funny and like how'd that go? So I was kind of pulling all the social stuff
Yeah.
into like a compilation article a lot of the time. So for me, it didn't feel like a grind, not only because I wasn't doing tons of it, but also just because I loved it. Like it was just so much fun. It was something that I wanted to do in my free time. So
Yeah. So
yeah.
speaking of the jersey thing, the new jerseys,
Yeah.
I wrote my own blog about the Penguins' new jerseys.
What'd you say?
And because everybody's bashing it and saying, "Oh, they look horrible," blah blah blah. And I was like, "Listen, this is the most Pittsburgh jersey I've ever seen." And the
I mean,
reason
it
being,
literally Pittsburgh.
exactly,
Right?
and the reason being is that it looks like one of those shirts that the merchants on the side of the street in front of the arena is selling.
Mm-hmm.
I compared them in the blog. It's like
Yeah.
Pittsburgh 21 shirt that they sell on the street, and then the jersey. It's the same font. It's the same. It's a nod to the people hustling on the side of the street trying to sell these T-shirts, and that's the most Pittsburgh thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely excited about them. I think when we think about it, right, from a brand perspective, it's a lot more of like nodding to our
Absolutely.
back in the 90s. But I totally see what you're saying too. And
Yeah, I mean, I hate when people we get new shiny nice things and people want to tear it down.
always,
To put a positive spin to it,
yeah, I know. And that's the crux of social media, right? Like
Yeah, absolutely.
so many times you just like, even right before we got on this call, I posted with Evgeny Malkin. We had a video of of him doing warm-ups on different days, and it's the exact same warm-up routine every single game, home or away. He's going through and doing the same thing. And so I posted and I was like, oh, I wonder how people are going to react to this. This is kind of like a different kind of video. And the first comment was like, can you guys stop wearing your yellow helmets with your yellow jerseys? And it's like, can we stop just like being so are you serious? Like, I'm not gonna be able to change something like that.
Yeah, right.
Also, like, this is a cool video of Gino. Like, why are you commenting about these freaking yellow helmets?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my life, is kind of like
dealing with the internet trolls.
Dealing with the internet. Yeah.
And make everybody happy.
And sometimes it's great. Like, we're talking about reverse retro jerseys. Like Sid sends us video and he's getting on, like, making us a TikTok, and like,
Exactly.
It's awesome. And then the next day somebody's telling me to change something that I can't change. So always an everlasting roller coaster of emotion online. So
absolutely. So now let's just jump right into your journey at the Pittsburgh Penguins. You start out as the coordinator of new media.
Yeah.
What was that like? I assume it was a new position. It kind of sounds like it was a new position, or was it already established?
It's hard to say. The team was kind of growing. So
yeah.
I think one of the earliest iterations of the new media team, there was a manager and a coordinator, and then there was a director and a coordinator, and then there was a senior director and a manager, and it kind of just kept growing bigger. So when I was hired, there was a manager and one coordinator, and I was going to be the second coordinator. So I think it was new in that there would be 3 positions within the group, which was kind of different. And the way that it was kind of broken down was that one coordinator would do website, one coordinator would do social, and then the manager would kind of manage us both and focus more on the app.
Yeah.
And a lot has changed since then. In so many ways. And so starting there, I was my boss just kind of handed me the keys really early, which was, now thinking back, like pretty wild. I don't know if she trusted me or she was like, I'm done, I'm done with it. Like, how, this is your problem now.
But it's like, as somebody who works in media, and I talked to, I don't know if you know Alex Mowry, he's a photographer in Pittsburgh.
Okay.
But he had a position with Pitt, and he said, like, it was literally a brand new position. They handed him the keys, and we talked about it. And it's like, as a creator, as someone who is into the digital field, that's like almost a dream for you, to be able to just do it your way almost, mm-hmm. and see how people react to it. Did you have the same experience?
I think yes and no. I think I had freedom to kind of be creative and kind of give it a little bit of my own voice. The Penguins have a pretty built out brand.
Yeah.
When it comes to like, what are our missions, like what are our brand pillars, and those things were set and kind of reset and looked at over and over. But with that said, like, you know, you have a lot of power tweeting to the fans, and I think there had been no clear like plan for, you know, maybe from the brand, but then like, how do we engage with fans, and how often are we replying, and when can we kind of be funny? And you know, it was fun to kind of figure that out and feel it out and see where I was comfortable. And obviously I was checking things with my boss a lot at the beginning.
Yeah.
But then you get more comfortable, right? It's less scary to tweet to 1 million people, or but it is scary, like the first couple of times. You're like, oh man, like if I mess something up with spelling, like it's never going away. Like, it will literally never go away.
I only have like 1,000 followers, and I'm like, I reread everything, and I'm like, okay, it's good. I send it, and then I see one mistake. I'm like, oh no. Like I sink. I'm like, oh god.
Yep.
But it's like, it pays attention to me.
And like things go wrong. Like that's just, it happens. But yeah, it was like a little scary. Every once in a while I'll have that feeling again. It hadn't happened to me in a couple years, and then I got that video with Mario putting on the jersey, and I was like, oh, like, okay, I don't get content from Mario Lemieux very often, like I need to like make the right copy for this. And I like checked it with a couple people, and you know, it's high pressure. I mean,
absolutely.
You're sending things out and firing them off, and it feels exhilarating, but it's also like kind of, oh my god, I better like lock it down and make sure this
I want to get into that aspect. You mentioned that you got the TikTok from Sydney, you got the content from Mario. So you guys don't tell them to do this? Do they do it on their own and send it to you? Like they know, okay, we should send this to digital. Like, is that how it works?
So it's different. It's different every time depending on the situation.
Okay.
We never tell them to do anything.
Yeah.
You don't tell those two guys. Nobody tells those two guys what to do. We can ask them, and we can suggest things, and you know, depending on what it is and what the timing of it looks like, they'll say yes or no. And in this instance, Adidas said to us, hey, we want to send out some jerseys to some influencers and some people. Who do you guys want them to go to? And we were like, oh, well, like, I wonder if we could just like send them to Sid and Mario, like if that would work. And then Adidas was like, oh, well, we're sending out blanks. And we're like, we're not sending out blanks to Sid and Mario. Like, we need captain patch, we need numbers, we need names, like, So we got them to send them to us early, and then we got them customized and sent those ourselves. We're still going to have some influencers getting them coming up, which will be really exciting.
I'll take one.
Unfortunately, that list is already set. But you can pre-order one at pensgear.com. But so I think with that, it was kind of like, well, let's ask Mario if he wants one in the mail, if he'd be willing to send us a photo or a video. We didn't really give him stipulations for what that could look like. We got an awesome clip from him.
Yeah, then you got the awesome clip with him in front of his trophy case.
Yeah, the trophy case. That was all him. He knew where to go, and so that was great. And then with Sid, we wanted him to do the TikTok style transition kind of video, and we pulled one that was from Claypool that we liked, and we're like, hey, check this out. Like, Chase Claypool did this. And then we made it ourselves, wrote out some instructions, made sure that those instructions were simple, and then he sent us back the video. We did some like minor editing, and the funniest part, you know, is like Sid, you know, Sid's like always wants to see it, make sure it looks okay. So we like had to send it back to him after it was done. Be like, okay, like, you know, here, what do you think? And he's like, okay, that's good. So then, you know, then we were good to kind of post it everywhere.
That's really cool. You guys have that kind of, obviously it's a work relationship, but it's like a back and forth with the people that you're trying to promote, and they're giving their feedback as well. It's really cool. Yeah.
So it's our communications team. They kind of are the go-between for that. So, you know, we come up with the idea in this case, and then we sent it to Jen, who's our VP of Communications. She sends it to Sid, checks on that. She'll sometimes stop things as they come in. She's like, this isn't the right thing. Like, we're not making this ask. But she has a great relationship with all of our players. And so it's much better if it comes from her. But some of the guys will just text us for photos and be looking for content. And then we kind of go back and forth with the digital team and the players, depending on what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned Chase Claypool, and I think everybody in Pittsburgh knows all three teams kind of support each other, intertwine with each other. They go to each other's games when they can.
Yeah.
And is that do you guys do that with other organizations, like the digital team? Do you guys communicate with the Pirates digital team, Steelers digital team? Do you kind of try to team up and do stuff?
Yeah. Yeah. I would love for people to see kind of what that looks like a little bit more.
Yeah, it seems like something that'd be really interesting to see how it works.
Yeah. So I have a pretty good relationship with a lot of social managers across sports, and Terry at the Pirates and Kyle at the Steelers. Like, we have group text, and Zach, who was at the Steelers, and he went to the Cardinals. I'm like, what is Arizona's football team? I was like only thinking Coyotes, the Cardinals. And, we worked with him pretty closely too. And I think the nice thing about Pittsburgh sports is, we're all black and gold. It's all kind of, if you're a fan of one, you're usually a fan of most or all. And we've worked pretty closely together on a couple different things, especially when something big is going on in the city that's like unrelated to sports. One of the ones that kind of stands out is the Tree of Life shooting a couple years back. We looked at that, and everyone started kind of putting out these like stronger than hate messaging. And, we had to kind of say, well, people are looking to kind of unite. And I kind of was saying it before with One World Football, people unite around sports, especially in Pittsburgh. And, how could we all kind of work together to strike the right tone and really help? Yeah. And I think that's like the powerful stuff, like we can kind of play off each other's posts and stuff, but we really have a voice, and we're influential in the community. So being able to kind of work together on making a difference in Pittsburgh that's what's really important.
Wow, I just got chills. That's really cool. That's awesome. So now let's get back to your career. You really did work your way up the ranks in the Pittsburgh Penguins organization, starting out as the coordinator and now being the VP. What was that like? How many years did it take? What were there late nights? Were there early mornings? Just take us through that journey.
Yeah, lots of late nights. Few early mornings, definitely a lot of late nights. Yeah. So yeah, I started at the Penguins January 2014. So it'll be 7 years this coming January.
Congrats.
Thanks. Yeah, it's a long time working in one place for somebody my age. A lot of people bounce around. So I've been really lucky that, especially in sports too, I've been really lucky to be able to kind of move up at the Penguins, and starting as a coordinator and kind of trying to learn my way. And then my boss left pretty early on. And rather than hiring somebody for her position, they kind of let me grow into it. And then, I became a manager, and I was allowed to hire my own coordinators. I actually got 2 at the same time. So our team was growing, and they're both still at the Penguins today. From there, it's just kind of been a whirlwind of so many things going on, and digital growing, and our following growing, and our budget growing, and our team growing, and winning 2 Stanley Cups. Like it's just been
it definitely
crazy.
throws a challenge in there, like the marketing aspect for sure.
Right. Well, challenge, but also like it makes everything easier at the same time, right? Like you're working so many more hours and trying to get out so much more content. But at the same time, it's like everything's hitting, which is, that's what we live for when it comes to social. So, yeah, it was awesome. And since then, now being VP, I'm kind of overseeing all of our website, social contesting, social analytics, partners on social, what that integration kind of looks like. Our app stuff is pretty involved in our group. Our text platform, we have our own video producer, our own graphic designer within our group. So we have a big creative team, we have a big video team, but we also have people who are creating specifically for social and are able to kind of adapt and kind of be on call a little bit more than that regular group. So a lot has changed for sure. I mean, even the platforms, when I started, we didn't have Snapchat, Instagram, stories didn't exist.
That's something I wanted to get into next.
Yeah. Talking
about the present and into the future. Mm-hmm. Obviously, TikTok has gotten huge. Now Twitter comes out with fleets, whatever those are. Yeah. How are you guys, what's the plan? You guys get in a meeting, what's the plan? How are you guys trying to utilize these apps and whatever to help you? What goes into a plan, or what goes into a meeting to plan that stuff, and how you're going to adapt for the future?
Yeah, so I would say one of the things that we've kind of lived by at the Penguins for a while is we like to be an early adopter, but not necessarily first. So sometimes we're first, when we know it's right. So some that stand out, we were the first professional sports team on our text platform that's brand new, and then also on our app provider with the InsCam, which is local. And now, it's everywhere. Yeah. So those two, we were first, but most of the time when we're looking at a new platform, we're seeing, okay, well, what are other teams kind of doing when they're first there? How is it working? How are people reacting to it? Do people think that fleets are exciting? Do they think they're just an extension of your Instagram stories? Should it be different? What makes sense? And then, the analytics on fleets are they're not too robust yet. So do you even know if it's working? Is kind of the next question. So I think a lot of the times we'll look at things and we'll discuss the merits of how teams are doing it. And I have a giant document that is right now, I can pull it up. It literally is a tab open on my computer right now. And it's called Fleets Twitter. And our intern went through a bunch of professional sports teams and wrote what they're doing on fleets. And then I had another member of my team look at the list, add a couple more things, and put what he liked and what he didn't like and why.
Oh, wow.
And so, I think that's pretty common for us, is just kind of looking and seeing what we think. And then kind of letting things fly, trying things out. I think a lot of people are afraid to fail. And I think within our group, we're like, let's try it out. If it's not right, it's not right. So, the first day of fleets, it was a Tuesday, and we were putting out wallpapers the next day. And I put out a fleet that was just hey, these wallpapers are coming soon. And I put out one of them, and we had 4. Yeah. So they went the next day, deleted the fleet. I have no idea yet if more people click through to those wallpapers, which I'm going to look at the impressions of that wallpapers post versus, previous weeks, and see if more people went there and checked back, because that was the intention. But I don't know if it works yet.
Yeah.
we'll see.
A lot of trial and error when it comes to new media.
Yeah, sometimes you just don't have enough information to say this is the right course of action, and you got to just kind of try things out and try and be creative and kind of forge your own path as you go.
Yeah, awesome. Well, Andi, thank you for joining me on Back to the Burgh. It was a really fun conversation for me, especially because I'm really into digital media and all that. So I appreciate the conversation.
Yeah, it's fun to be here. Thanks for having me.